magazine ever ran for subscriptions. Now, for obvious reasons, I didn't bring it here. That ad showed a beautiful woman without much on, holding a wreath, a Christmas wreath. And this wreath, through the middle of it, had a ribbon. And on that ribbon was printed, "Give him ideas for Christmas." Very successful ad. Normal kind of a Playboy ad, you know, for Playboy, except for one thing. You did a close-up on the wreath. What do you think the wreath was made out of? Genitalia. For Christmas. Very successful ad. Normal kind of a male and female. But you know, I asked these inmates, what's this wreath made of? Nuts. What kind of nuts? Walnuts? Acorns? Looks like all of them. When you showed them the close-up, it was... The next 4 slides, they're in my book, Thinking Without Thinking. I've done a little editing. I'm going to warn you right now. Some of it's graphical. I've tried to make it as palatable as possible with respect to everyone in this audience. Judas Priest case is going down, and everybody's saying they don't do it, and somebody out there that read my books, still anonymous to me, sent me a letter. And with the letter, he sent me a training manual from the advertising agency in America. I'd like to name that agency, but my attorneys say, you know, if you name him, get a deep seat and a faraway look. This training manual very explicitly and in very detailed psychological terms. And I'm going to tell you how detailed. A colleague of mine who has written articles in different journals called me when I sent him a copy and said, Eldon, do you understand what these guys are talking about? A very well-skilled, professional cognitive psychologist is reading the psychology and saying, whoa, some of this is over my head. Very skilled, the best in the industry, developing a training manual, what I'm going to show you. How to build an ad from a company I cannot name, but I'll bet you've seen their ad, that will cause your dwell time to increase. What's that mean? You go to turn the page, you'll stop and look at it again. Product identification. Now, if it piques your arousal, if there is any arousal, then when you go to the store to buy this liquor or any liquor, oh, you know, that one aroused me. But you're not consciously going to make that decision. That's the whole idea. This is the ad, cropped. So I'm not giving away the name of the company or the name of the liquor. Seen this ad anywhere? This was the rendition done by an artist before they hired a model to come in and pose for the ad. I want you to look at some things. The little imp up here, what it is and why. I want you to take a look at what is right there. Tell me what you think that is. Take a look at this. Take a look at this. All right. Close up. Can you tell what she's about to put in her mouth? That ad ran in nearly every magazine in North America and throughout Europe and was a very successful ad. It was absolutely, intentionally designed to be full of taboos, sexual embeds, etc. Why? Paint a sign on that wall that says, don't touch wet paint, and see how many people touch it. Tell somebody they can't do something, they shouldn't do something, it becomes a taboo, and watch them peak. Isn't that human nature? Nobody puts subliminal message in music. Remember I told you about Judas Priest? Well, Judas Priest said, oh, we've done it before, but we didn't do it on this one. That's a coincidence of sound. Lots of music includes subliminal messages. It's a radio station. Called me on the phone one day and said, hey, Madonna's new release, it's got subliminal message in it, we think. Will you check it out? Oh, this was ballyhooed everywhere in America. Did it have subliminal messages? What you're going to hear is a Madonna recording that everybody knows. In the recording, played backwards, is a message that Madonna's people admitted they did for publicity. What is that message? It's a poem. It's a satanic poem. You'll hear it for yourself.
Needing, waiting,
right here in this verse,
for you to justify my love, hoping, praying for you to justify my love.
The reversal is, in the midnight smoke of yellow, hear my melodies, hail from the family, it must be unknown.
Midnight smoke of yellow, hear my melodies, hail from the family, and it must be unknown.
That's pretty clear, pretty obvious. And again, the Madonna people admitted doing it and claimed that it was a publicity stunt. You remember we were in that Judas Priest case? I was asked the question, you ever run a study? Show that people kill themselves? That really bothered me. So I decided to design a study, not to kill people, but one to show how we processed information. Every one of you, especially you scientists that are here, I challenge you. On my website, www.progressiveawareness.org, all of this is totally downloadable. The audio tracks, etc., the entire protocol. What we did was create a design whereby we would measure a response, both physiologically and thematically, to a danger message. What would the danger message be? Look out. Danger, danger, danger. So what we did is we created 3 minutes where every 60 seconds we had the message, danger, danger, danger. Then we got volunteers and we connect them to a polygraph. The idea of the polygraph is, of course, it's among the most sophisticated biofeedback devices on the planet. We would look at their breathing, their cardio. We would look at their blood pressure. We would know whether or not they process that unconsciously or not. But what if there was a partial cue? What if some of it bled through? What if it wasn't disguised enough? Well, let's safeguard for that. Let's create a placebo group. In the placebo group, we'll play them the same soundtrack. We'll monitor them while they sit in their comfortable positions. But the message will be, people are walking. That's a benign message, right? We'll ask them at exit, what did you imagine? What did you think about? We'll tell them that we want to experiment with the sound of nature on the body, because everybody knows that the sound of music relaxes us or excites us. But how about the sound of nature? We'll distract them and tell them we're measuring the sound of nature. You're going to be listening through headphones to gentle ocean waves. Just relax, sit back, put up with the discomfort of the blood pressure cuff and the upper lower pneumobelts, but otherwise just relax and let go. We'll monitor the effects of this ocean wave. We delivered in our experimental group, danger, danger. Every time it was delivered, we had charts that did this, galvo that did this, breathing that did this. They were erratic responses. We delivered. People are walking. We didn't have any responses. They were normal throughout. The responses in our danger message became more exaggerated by the time we hit the third term. I suppose we could have anticipated that, but I didn't at the time. What was most important was the thematic apperception of the people participating. What was their daydream reverie? Everyone that listened to People Are Walking, they were at a beach, sun was falling on their face, it was a beautiful day, they were relaxed, and there were lots of people walking all over. I didn't expect that. The danger message, every daydream was death and dying. every daydream, death and dying. That tells me more than watching the body respond to that danger message. Summarizing really quickly, when we look at subliminal content, a lot of people would say the information that's in an ad, like that first ad I showed you, the whiskey ad, that's really not subliminal, that's supraliminal. It's there, you know it's there, you just fail to see it. I don't disagree with that. They'll also say, you know, we have superliminal messages. You know what they are, don't you? There's a beautiful car, and there's a guy that has a beautiful woman in that fancy new car. And there's another guy driving up in an old jalopy looking at that beautiful car. Now, you understand that message. You know you're being motivated. Hey, if you buy this fancy car, you're going to have a beautiful girl or something, sit more erect. That's a superliminal. A subliminal message, by definition, is not something that's there as a result of an accident, coincidence of sound, although that happens. It is something that's intentionally placed in such a way as to go unnoticed, not unregistered. The brain will register it. You'll fail to notice it, discriminate it.
Is the word rats. Democrats are calling it a subliminal attack. Republicans are calling it an accident. But George W. Bush wasted no time yanking the ad and finds himself yet again tonight thrown off message at a time he desperately needs to be on the mark. We begin tonight with NBC News White House correspondent Claire Shippen, who is traveling with the Gore camp in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Gore and Lieberman's motorcade making its way from one school to another in southern Ohio, the candidates talking education. But all the focus today on the meaning of one word, rat, shown in this Republican television commercial for 1/30th of a second.
I find it a very disappointing development. I've never seen anything quite like it.
The ad is about prescription drugs, but if you slow it down, read between the lines, the word rats appears over the phrase Gore's prescription plan. The Bush campaign says it's a meaningless flash, silly even, but explanations for how it got there are confused.
They were more than confused. It was an accident, and then, well, it was a joke, and you probably heard about it here. The fact is, again, nobody uses it. We had an incident in the United States known as the Waco incident. We find out that this Koresh fellow and his followers, who behaved in such a totally violent way, much to the embarrassment of Janet Reno, were being bombarded with subliminal messages designed by our FBI and Soviet intel people. And the Soviets had informed us, you know, I don't know this is a good idea because it may just heighten their arousal, and instead of them resigning and surrendering, they may become more aggressive. Well, they became more aggressive, and it's a matter of record. To the best of my knowledge, based on a number of hearings that I've participated in, based on judicial interpretations in courts, throughout the world, there is no such thing as a law that protects you from subliminal intrusion anywhere. As close as we come to anything of that nature are communication statutes like our federal communications system in the United States, where there's a thou shalt not, but there's no penalty attached to it. So when the Democrats howled foul for rats, there was no punitive, no damage. Judge Whitehead did hold it was a violation of First Amendment rights, and that violation of First Amendment rights is analogous to somebody hollering fire in a theater. That First Amendment to us, freedom of speech, is not the freedom to say anything you want, anytime, anywhere, but that's as close as we've come to any kind of a law.